A very good evening and welcome to the undergraduate webinar series, an interactive online platform connecting high school students to the Ashoka community. In this series, we aim to cover topics related to Ashoka's undergraduate program. Our academic counselors will guide you in understanding the various aspects of the university. My name is Rangoli Dhingra, and I thank you for joining us for today's session, a very special webinar with some of our students who are here with us to share their experiences and journey at Ashoka University so far. Without further delay, I'd like to welcome our panel of speakers. We have amongst us Lari Yafi Warshom, who is a biology major currently in her fourth year at Ashoka. To me, Lari Yafi's multiple interests and accomplishments are as fascinating as her beautiful name. She has headed Vistar, the music society at Ashoka, and is also part of the Western a cappella team. Trained in Bharatnatyam and Western classical piano, this year Lari completes her minor in performing arts, even as she writes her thesis in biology. Welcome, Lari.
Thank you, Rangoli. I'm very happy to be here. Thanks.
Next in line is Rohan Manoj, who is pursuing his major in psychology and a minor in performing arts. He's also the sports minister at Ashoka and captain of the Ultimate Frisbee team. Rohan is also a peer mentor under the OLS Peer Learning Support Program. Currently in his third year, he is working on research work in inclusivity for neurodiversity. Hi, Rohan.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
Happy to have you here, Rohan. Next with us is Sahana Shanavas, who's majoring in biology alongside a minor in psychology. Sahana is working with the Office of Student Affairs as resident assistant or RA. She has also been part of various clubs like Kintsugi, Siahi, and Neve. More recently, Sahana has interned with the Office of Admissions and Outreach. Hi, Sahana.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
Great, Sahana. Look forward to a lot of interaction with you. Last but certainly not the least, we have amongst us Aditi Tibrewal, who's pursuing an interdisciplinary major in computer science and entrepreneurship. She's the co-founder and president of Lang Up, the languages club at Ashoka. Aditi is also the internship coordinator at the internship cell on campus. Very happy to have you here, Aditi.
Thank you for having me. I'm also very excited to be here.
Super. So a very warm welcome to all of you once again, and thank you for being with us for this session. Lari, Rohan, Sahana, and Aditi are senior students who've had the best experience on campus in the past, who transitioned successfully to a work from home routine and are back on campus now and happy to be so. Despite the hurdles, the learning did not stop. And for this, credit goes to each and every one. The university, the faculty, the parents, but most of all to the students. If not for their resilience, this would have been a very tough challenge to overcome. Before we proceed with the discussion, may I remind you to post any questions you may have in the Q&A box. We'll be taking them up at the end of the session. So let's begin with the one question topmost on everyone's mind. How has the past year and a half been for each one of you? You're the batch that has experienced on campus and online studying possibly in equal measure. So how has this experience been for you? Lari, we could start with you.
Thank you. It's been a very funny one. I think adjusting to an online atmosphere and online classes has been very tough at first, but all the professors have been extremely accommodating. We found ways to even have practical classes online at some point. So I'm very amazed at the ingenuity of the professors and also my classmates and my batchmates for also getting through it with me. Coming back to campus, though, is the best feeling ever. I'm glad I'm able to spend my last year here. Yes.
Great. I'm so happy that things have changed for the better, and I'm sure this is going to get even better. So, Rohan, what about you? How has this experience been for you?
I think, yeah, to echo what Larry said at the beginning, it was very challenging, especially with me being a performing arts minor and pretty much everything. At the beginning, we had to sort of reimagine what performance was because we went online. But I think the university really has adapted, and more than that, even the faculty has really adapted to moving online. And I think for me, one of the biggest things about Ashoka, even when I was on campus, was the collaboration with your peers. And I think that even that, when we went online, didn't really change. And even though we're on campus now, classes are still online, and that still hasn't changed, and the collaboration still continues. And yeah, that's something that has really stood out to me.
Fantastic. So I think we are going to ease into the normal life, so to say, and but happy that we made a start and all of you are on campus. Sahana, are you happy to be back on campus?
I'm so happy to be back on campus. It's very nice. I'm a biology major too, like Larry, and it's very nice to attend classes back on campus. But that being said, our professors worked so hard to help us transition to an online mode and help bring that aspect of the classroom online. And I think they did a very, very good job. But I'm very happy to be back.
Fantastic. Aditi, what about you? What is your contribution to this conversation?
So for me, this has been really nice because I got the offline experience, and then I remember because when you're offline, you talk a lot to people and socialize a lot. So going online actually increased the amount of time I had, and I feel like I might have not done half of the things that I have done now because it's online, and now it's offline again. So it's like perfect. So I worked more than I had people I had to work with. Now they're on campus, so I'm like continuing that work with them. So it's
Great.
genuinely been really nice for me.
So I think the one thing that's happened to all of us is we've all learned to reinvent ourselves, and whether it was offline or back on campus, the learning, so to say, continues. Am I right on that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, great. So Larry, coming back to you, there's this one question we get very often, and while our vibrant campus and the opportunity to pursue multiple activities alongside academics is a huge draw for students, parents often wonder if there is enough time to study. Larry, I know that you are part of the Western a cappella team. You are trained in Bharatnatyam and Western classical piano, and you are writing your thesis in biology. So how do you strike a balance?
I think I'm most grateful for the relatively good amount of freedom that Ashoka offers, especially with my thesis and my thesis advisor. I do work during times that I'm comfortable with. And being a part of the Western a cappella team and other clubs and societies on campus has also taught me that, firstly, teamwork is so important. When you're working with other people, there is space for you to take a step back whenever you need to focus on your studies, go back into it whenever you want to. But also, that organization is key. Keeping yourself and your work organized always helps. I've also been very lucky in that even my love for Bharatnatyam has been able to continue because I've taken Bharatnatyam courses. So I'm studying the things that I love at the same time, which has all been very great. Yeah.
Great. So, Larry, I just wanted to ask you this one question that, in the outreach team, when we reach out to high school students, we do tell them that the fourth year at Ashoka even though it's an optional year, it is definitely one year that adds value to your degree. So I wanted you to just add here, like we know that you're currently enrolled in the Ashoka Scholars Program, which is the fourth optional year at Ashoka. And we also know that there are multiple ways in how a student utilizes this fourth year. But how are you spending this additional year at the university? And what is the one thing that you'd like to share with prospective students who are curious about what goes on in this fourth year at Ashoka? So something about the ASP, please.
Yes. So for my ASP year, I'm currently doing an advanced major in biology, which means that I would have to complete my capstone thesis project as well. I'm also completing my minor in performing arts. So I would say that if you're thinking of applying for a master's or a PhD program, especially in places like US and Canada, you will need 16 years of education. So the fourth year is great for that. But apart from that, also, you get a lot of research experience, especially since I'm doing research. I get a lot of hands-on experience. I work in the lab. And I'm also more than studying things that are already published, that are already known in the world of science. I'm adding my own research into that growing pool of knowledge, which is the most satisfying thing, I think, about academia. Yeah.
Fantastic. And very quickly, I did get a glimpse into your topic of research. Would you just like to share that with us, please?
Yes, I'm doing research on salt stress in Duna Liala. So I don't know if you've seen the red lakes or the lakes that turn red because of salt stress. That is because of an organism known as Duna Liala salina, which produces beta carotenoids. But basically, my research focuses on that aspect of it. So currently, what we know about it is a certain part of, okay, this is what it does
Right.
genetically. I'm looking at what further happens after the genetics that make them turn red under salt stress.
Great. Thank you so much for this, Larry. And I wish I could fake knowledge about sciences. I have never been a science student, but I know for a certainty that in the past few years, there's been a phenomenal interest in the field of biology, and students coming to us have been interested in pursuing majors in biology. So I think having you here with us today will help us answer a number of questions that I am certain will come up in the Q&A box. So thank you so much, Larry. We'll come back to you. Over to you, Rohan. That another thing that we very often get is, students who are very interested in continuing with their sports pursuits. And, there's often this question as, will they get enough time for their sports, or how will the university support them in their endeavors? So could you just share, and we know, Rohan, that you're a keen sports person and also currently the sports minister at Ashoka. So you are definitely the right person to help us understand what are the kind of facilities extended to students who are keen on pursuing sports alongside their academics at Ashoka.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So first of all, when I joined Ashoka, the most important thing to me was sports, because I've always played sports. So that was probably the biggest thing I was looking for when I joined. I think one thing that has really impressed me is not only how state of the art the facilities are. I mean, we have an indoor badminton court and an indoor basketball court, and we have 3 basketball courts in total on campus, as well as many other fields which are exceptional, as well as a volleyball court. But I think more than that, something that's really sort of stood out to me is just how receptive the sports department is. They really care about not only people that have prior experience, and they take care of the athletes well, and they make sure that they're treated well, and that when they go for tournaments, all funding is taken care of. But the sports department also, something else they really, really do is they make sure that they take care of people that haven't played sports before, which in my opinion is as important, because you want to always get new people into playing and new people interested. So I think that is something that has really, really sort of stood out for me over the past 3 years at Ashoka. And I think that what over the pandemic, what they've been able to do is they've been able to actually focus now a lot more on inclusivity and diversity and getting more people to play sports, which I think has been an incredible thing. And even if you're interested in competitive sports, like if you look at Haryana and where we are, it's probably the hub of 90% of competitive sports in India. We have the Sports Authority of India complex for track and field athletes just down the road from us over here. We have the Motilal Nehru School of Sports also down the road the other side. And we just have so many sports facilities that even for now, there isn't a proper field facility where you can do long jump, high jump, and all of that on campus. But just because the other facilities are so close to campus, they're always open for us to go and train. And I think that's something that really stands out. And yeah, so this is pretty much all I have about sports at Ashoka.
Great, great, Rohan. So the one very important thing that you've brought out is that Ashoka does focus on students who have not had an exposure to sports earlier. And we do encourage students to pick up sports that they may not have had an exposure with in the past. So that is something that we, when each time I speak to the students on campus, it validates my claims. When I speak to prospective students, we do tell them that Ashoka is a place of opportunities. So it doesn't matter whether you have had a chance to, pursue any sport in the past, but here at Ashoka, you definitely do. So thanks for bringing that out, Rohan. Also, in your profile, I did notice that you are passionate about inclusion and neurodiversity, and that is something close to your heart. And you are also working as a peer mentor with OLS. So what exactly is OLS, and how does it support students with additional needs. And as a peer mentor, how do you help, Rohan?
Okay, so yeah, neurodiversity and inclusivity is probably the biggest thing that is closest to my heart, because I've grown up as someone with dysgraphia and a few other neurodivergent issues. And so I understand the struggles that we face. But thank God at Ashoka, we have the OLS. The OLS is basically the Office of Learning Support. What they do is they help not only students with neurodiversity and other difficulties, but they also help any student that goes to them, whether it is for things like time management, creating a schedule, asking for help with that. And the other end, for people with issues and neurodiversity and all of that, they help get accommodations for those students throughout their courses. So they essentially communicate with the professors for you, and all you, but what you have to do is you have to go to them and tell them, hey, I need this help and I need this sort of help. And once you bring it to them and once you let them know, they're always there to help. And that's something that's probably been the biggest and best part of my Ashokan experience. And as a peer mentor, what I really sort of do is this semester I have 3 peer mentees. It's just about meeting them regularly. 2 of them are first years, so the UG 24 batch,
Yes.
and one of them is a second year. So it's sort of just catering to their needs, because this is a large jump from school to college. And so it's things that range from how do citations work and all of that, to how do I manage my time. I don't feel I'm being productive enough. So it's to all of that, to what facilities can I contact for so and so help. So it's just about being there for them and being as a student, being a year for them to sort of allay all their frustrations, or not frustrations, but more concerns that they have, and sort of help them air them out. So yeah.
Great. So to say that you have never been, at any disadvantage because of your learning disability, would it be all right for me to claim that?
Yeah, I think at Ashoka, it's actually really surprised me. I've always felt like I've integrated really well with the rest of my batch. And something that I've also learned over the years, and especially now in the research that I'm doing with professors, is that uh, at Ashoka, especially, what they look at is what you can do and what you can excel in. It isn't what you can't do. So I think I've never really felt that disadvantage here, and I felt like the rest of my batch here, whereas that wasn't necessarily the case a lot in school.
Great, great. So thank you so much, Rohan. I think with you being in leadership roles, you're the sports minister, and you are inspiring a whole lot of younger students out there. So I'll be more than, I would be very happy if you would connect with prospective students who do face, issues because of learning disabilities they've had in the past, and how, you can talk to them about these opportunities that lie ahead. So thank you so much, Rohan, for sharing that with us. We'll be back with you shortly. Sahana, coming to you, and I know that a very integral component of liberal education is community involvement. And at Ashoka, every student is committed in different ways towards the betterment of the community. Sahana, you have been a part of various clubs and societies that contribute to the community in many ways. So could you just share with us how your involvement has impacted those around you, as well as your own learning? What is it that you have gained, through all these clubs and societies? And I noticed you've been part of Kintsugi, Siahi, Neve. If you can just tell us briefly about these different clubs and societies that you've been involved with.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your question. I think Ashoka is a great place to explore things beyond your major, beyond what you're actually studying. So that I think there are over 55 clubs and societies. So anything that you're interested in, you can definitely pursue it outside the classroom. From baking to cycling, there are so many things, so many clubs and societies on campus for so many interests. I am a biology major, so I study biology in the classroom, but I could also do things outside that have nothing to do with my major. I was part of CIE, which is the art society, and we did a bunch of art related events through that. I was part of NEVE, which is a community engagement program, and I was part of Kintsugi, which is the mental health club. So there's so much you can do, and Ashoka is a very diverse student body. I think clubs and societies are the best way that you can meet people who share common interests with you that you wouldn't otherwise. And being part of a club also teaches you skills of, communication, time management, and organization skills in general. So there's so much you can learn from being part of club.
Absolutely, absolutely. And also, I understand, Sahana, you work very closely with the Office of Students Affairs. So, what exactly is your charter of duties as a resident assistant? Can you just describe that a little bit and what your role is as far as settling in a new student scores?
So, as a resident assistant, my job is exactly what it says, to assist my residents. So, it is a paraprofessional job where I help the residents with any kind of need that they may have, be it academic, social, personal, and I work very hard towards community development of the university as a whole. So, my role extends to critical administrative tasks, as well as including duty and crisis management, as well as organizing events for community building for residents that I'm assigned to, as well as residents of the university.
Great, great. Sahana, while we're still with you, and we know that you are pursuing an interdisciplinary major in computer science and entrepreneurship. So can you just talk about this a little? And because there is this question in the Q&A box, and there is a student who intends to pursue a CS and entrepreneurship major. So if you can just talk about this a little bit, please.
I'm actually a biology major, I think.
I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. My apologies. I think that is, we have to move on to Aditi, and I can come back to you for the other question. Aditi, I know that you've been working with the internship cell on campus, and you've been an internship coordinator. So internships are a major requirement, for anything that you do. And can you just shed some light on the kind of support students get as far as internships go? And also, if you can just talk about how placements have been happening in the absence of a regular career fair, or I know that there's been a virtual fair last year, and how that kind of functions and how that has impacted the recruiters coming to Ashoka.
Sure. So internships are definitely very important, because if we apply outside Ashoka, like by ourselves, it's more hard, first of all. Secondly, a lot of companies don't even hire like without colleges, because Ashoka builds like a kind of credibility. So this way, Ashoka is really helpful. Now, talking about the virtual fair, I remember I joined the team just 2 weeks before the fair. And everybody was like, it's going to be a task because we're doing it online and we want to make it a good experience, both for students as well as recruiters. Yeah. But we actually managed to do a better job, and we had more companies, because a lot of companies might not want to travel in person sometimes. But when it was online, it was more of a motivation for them. And we had so many companies come in, and a lot of students got placed. So that way, the experience was amazing.
Great. And I think I quite stumped Sahana with that query earlier, but this one's for you, Aditi. Can you just talk to us a little bit about your interdisciplinary major in computer science and entrepreneurship? There is a student who's listening in today who intends pursuing this.
Okay, so my experience has genuinely been amazing. So I was a computer science major when I started it, like in my second year, and there was no plan of doing entrepreneurship, because the requirement goes like you have to do all the computer science courses plus 4 entrepreneurship courses. So I was like, maybe I can decide on that later. And then I did just one course, and I was like, wow, this complements it so well. Because think about it, no matter what startup you do, you need some kind of tech. Yes. And now you don't have to hire an outside CTO. You can just be that CTO yourself. And even if you want somebody else, you obviously have some knowledge about it. And that's when you can guide better. So that way, CS and entrepreneurship is a really nice experience.
Great. Great. Also, coming back to clubs and societies, I know that you've been co-founder and president of LangUp, the Languages Club at Ashoka. So how easy is it to start a new club or a new society at Ashoka?
I think it's really easy, because I remember deadline was like 3 days from when I saw the application. And I had this idea, but I wasn't sure if it's like good enough to go about it and if people would be interested, because the whole idea of LangUp is, forming a community. So if I don't have people interested in it, there's not a lot I can do about it. Yeah. But then I rolled out a form, an interest form, and we registered the people who would be willing to have a club like this. And within 2 hours, we got 100+ responses. And that was so much validation. So we had this proposal form that we had to submit, and we attached the report with it. And I was expecting that we'll be called for like more questions and, it's going to be really hard. But they actually allowed us to form the club.
Great.
And we were already on our journey. So it was great.
Great. So, and you continue to head the club, right?
Yes. So my friend and I started it together. So she's not a part of it anymore, but I am continuing to head the club.
Right. And what are your duties as president of this club?
Okay. So we have 5 language columns, which is French, Spanish, German, Japanese, Hindi. Yeah. So what happens is I obviously don't know all the languages. I just know Hindi, English, and Spanish. But there are a lot of people who do know, and they would want to like grow on it, also have people to talk about it. So we have heads for each columns. And I am basically pushing them to like go for it and have bi-weekly meetups, have community gatherings, come up with new ideas, collaborate with other clubs on campus. So my role is more like being like, hey, let's do this.
Okay, great. So that's fantastic, Aditi, and we are in no rush to let you go. There's one question for you specifically. What are you planning to do after your interdisciplinary major, and how are your peers, and does the curriculum challenge you? So basically, a student who's looking at the same majors as you.
Okay. So after my major, my plan is to go into UI UX design. So this is something I came across because I did CS, because otherwise I don't think I would have actually explored it. So honestly, this clubs and CS worked really well for me because I didn't expect that I would be a creative person at all before Ashoka. But then I joined this Her campus marketing team, and people used to make graphics, and I used to see so much of it like every week that my design sense improved. Then Langup happened and I had to do marketing myself because it was a new club. So that's when my skills came into picture. And then computer science happened. So the UI UX design aspect came in. So that is a plan I have. Apart from that, because I have been doing entrepreneurship, my agenda is to make Langup bigger and take it outside Ashoka as well, if possible. And this is something that has been absolutely inculcated in me via the entrepreneurship department, because they're absolutely amazing and we do a lot of case studies. So yes.
Aditi, correct me if I'm wrong, you didn't really need to bucket yourself in a particular course or a particular stream. So a lot of your learning has happened on the way, and this discovery has happened on the way. And you have, as I see with the way you've progressed, you have literally learned on the way and discovered your passions on the way. Am I right?
Yes, quite literally.
Great. So those kind of opportunities, I think, are really important for students when there is so much on offer. There is, there's a lot of play in there. And I think every student deserves the freedom to choose what they wish to study. I'm glad you had that and you are following your passion. Coming back to, thank you so much, Aditi. I'll be back again. There are many questions we have in the Q&A box. So brace yourselves, guys. So one question here for Larry. Larry, how have you been able to continue pursuing your passion for Bharatnatyam? How much time do you have to practice? And this question comes from a student who shares the same interest as you, and they don't want to leave it. So will they be able to continue, and will they get the opportunities to perform both on campus and outside of campus? Larry, over to you.
I definitely think you will have time for Bharatnatyam if it is as important to you as it is to me. As I've said before, I'm really lucky that I also have courses in it, so that helps me to keep in touch with it regardless of what I'm doing. But there's also a dance studio that you can book slots for. We actually have 2 dance studios. So if you ever need a space to practice, it's always there. If you ever want to book and timings during your day to practice, it's always there. The rest is up to you, depending on the courses that you take and the other activities you want to participate in. You can make time.
I've actually heard that before. I think in the last interaction we had with students, this was something that a student brought out. If you really are passionate about something, you will find the time to do that. So it's all about following your passion at Ashoka, and you will be facilitated, but the interest has to be your own. Am I right, Larry?
Yes, it's very true. The facilities for doing what you want are there.
Right, great. Great. Also, since we have Rohan here also, who's pursuing performing arts, and so are you, this question is for both of you. Could you just share about any theater opportunities at Ashoka? So Larry, maybe we can go with you first.
So there is a theater society, Kirdar, and that is a lot of work. I've personally never been a part of Kedar myself because it is it's a very active club. But you can also take courses in the performing arts department as well. This semester, I have a course called Voice and Body Practices from Asian Traditional Theaters, which is it's a whole new aspect to looking at theater itself. In the class, we have clubs for you. Yeah.
Great, Larry. Thank you so much. Rohan, what about you? What has your experience with performing arts been? And have you had any opportunities to, towards theater of any kind?
Yeah, so actually, this is a question that again is very close to me because I've done theater for the last 15, 16 years of my life. So I've done it since I've been 4, 5 years old. So it was definitely something I looked forward to when I came to Ashoka. So yeah, as Larry said, apart from the theater society, and what I'm about to say might be my bias as performing arts rep coming in, but I'd really, really, really recommend taking courses with the performing arts department. I think what happens is even if you don't want to do a concentration or a minor, I think Larry will also agree. When you take one course with the department, you just keep want to take more. You keep wanting to take more, and even one course you take is an incredible learning experience because if you look at it, the faculty we have, especially for performing arts and theater especially, is incredible. The course that Larry was talking about, the Asian Traditional Theater course, is with Professor Uma Kachu, who's done great work in not only the Delhi theater scene, but little by little now she's working up the theater scene in India, and she's just absolutely incredible. We have Professor Justin McCarthy, who heads the department, and I can't say enough nice things about him because he's genuinely probably the best person I know. And we have Professor Navteej Johar, we have Professor Maya Krishna Rao, who, if you actually look at it when it comes to theater in India, these are probably four of the biggest names you can get in India, and we have all of them on our faculty list. And you learn so much from them that I'd say I had the similar concern when I came in, but after doing performing arts, and now I've done about 8 courses from the department, and it genuinely is a very smooth transition, especially for theater, because every course has a large component of theater, irrespective of what course you take.
I'm sorry. Yes, that is something what we were looking at. Rohan, still with you, there is one question in particular directed at you, since you are the sports minister and there are, multiple interests for you in particular. How serious is squash at Ashoka? I mean, I don't think I'm framing that question correctly, but what about squash at Ashoka? Do you have opportunities, and is it a sport that is pursued?
People actually take squash very seriously at Ashoka. We have 2 squash courts, and the squash team that we have, both the men and the women's team, they compete at 90% of the Delhi University circuit events, and they win 90% of them. So it's a sport that's taken really, really, really seriously at Ashoka. And even if you haven't necessarily played it, but just want to come and play, the sports block is always open, aside from the coaching hours where you can just go and play all of it. So I'd say, yeah, it's taken extremely seriously at Ashoka.
Great, great. So coming to you, Aditi, and there is a question again specifically for you. What is the main difference between an interdisciplinary major, since you are doing an interdisciplinary major in computer science and entrepreneurship, versus a combination of a major and minor separately? If you can just help us understand that.
Sure. So for an interdisciplinary major, you just have to do 4 entrepreneurship courses, and one course is worth 4 credits. Whereas for a minor, you have to do 6 courses. So that's the major difference between these two. That's all.
Okay. Okay. So something that I'm going to throw open to all four of you, I want to understand what has your admissions process experience been. So each one of you, I want four of you to answer that because, we are in the process of, rather in the middle of our admission cycle for next year. And we want our students to understand this a little bit. So what has maybe your sharing your experiences is going to bring that out. So Aditi, since we are already with you, how was your admissions experience at Ashoka?
Okay. So from my school, nobody had ever been to Ashoka before. So it was a very new experience for me, and nobody else was applying either. So I was in an engineering college before, and I was in my first year. It was going to end. So I was the only one applying, and I had no idea what I was signing up for. But the application process, like application itself, was so big. And I was so excited to see that somebody cared about the co curriculars I did in school. Because while engineering, the only thing that was looked at was the JE score. So that was really interesting for me. But then till then also I wasn't sure about Ashoka because I didn't know enough. But then I very clearly remember I didn't tell my parents about it, that I'm applying to Ashoka, because it was a big conversation to have about engineering and Ashoka. So I just went for the interview myself, and I was like, let's see how it goes, and then probably I can pitch it to them. And the interview experience itself was so exciting. I remember having the 40-minute conversation with the panel, and I was like, wow, I want to be here. And I very nicely remember that when I stepped out, I was like, if I get in, I'm going to be really lucky. And this is exactly what I want. So my experience was really fun. And even that one single day spent at the Ashoka office really like made me happy. So I was like, okay, this is what I want.
Any regrets? Was it difficult to convince your parents thereafter?
No, surprisingly, they were like, if you want it, then sure, go for it.
Great. And I assume definitely no regrets to that.
No regrets at all.
What about you? Thank you so much, Aditi. What about you, Larry? You belong to Shillong, and I know that we have a fantastic team up in East, and we do kind of reach out to students in that part of the country. But what about you? Did you know about Ashoka? How easy was it for you to do the application, write the application for us, and the process experience?
Yes, so Ashoka was actually mentioned to me by a teacher that I really admired while I was still in boarding school. And so I visited the website myself while I was in boarding school, filled out the application myself, all while I was still taking my classes. Um, so during the beginning of it, I thought that it was so lengthy, but also I was so intrigued by all the things that they asked of me during the admissions process. And I had otherwise thought, okay, all I'm going to have to do is submit my marks. This is what I would have to do. But then they asked about all my co-curricular activities, my extracurriculars, and I feel like you really do get a thorough idea of what kind of person this is applying to Ashoka. And so I had submitted my applications and did all of that myself. And by the time that I had been called for the in person interviews, I had already started my classes on campus on with my boarding school. So I remember taking the interview online, and I was sitting in the bio lab, and they'd asked me to sing because that was one of my extracurriculars that I had mentioned in my applications. So here I was in the middle of the bio lab just singing. And I think that's a very unique aspect of this experience, is that they don't really just ask you academia. They ask a lot about what else you do and what else you're really passionate about. And so I really did appreciate the entire process for it.
Great. Thank you so much, Larry. I want to come to you, Sahana, and there are a couple of questions about, mental health and what an average Ashoka student does for, the betterment of mental health in and around the university campus. So I know that Kintsugi is a club that deals with mental health awareness. So what was your experience with Kintsugi as a club?
As a club, it was, thank you so much for your question. It was very, very fulfilling to work with Kintsugi, and the work they do is amazing in promoting mental health awareness on campus. But at a university level, Ashoka also has ACWB, which is a Center for Well-being, where students can go and speak to counselors about mental health concerns, but Kintsugi works on doing it at a student level. So they work to organize Let's Talk sessions, and they do a bunch of very interesting work.
Right. Right. Also, Sahana, since you are an RA, what is the campus life like? And now that we are in that unlock phase, students are gradually coming back to campus. How do you, how do you compare it to what life was pre-pandemic, and how is it now? Are you gradually kind of crawling back to normalcy? Are you, on a full 100% attendance? And do you actually think that the next academic year is going to be online or offline, Sahana?
As a student, the university has been working very hard to transition back to normal campus life. As of now, it's not at full occupancy, and as a student, I can say that it is going back to what it was before, but it's not there yet.
Great. So I understand that we did have, as you talk about occupancy, we started with only 50 and less than that, so that, there was the mandatory social distancing, etc. maintained. So, but things are getting back to normal, I guess. The campus is gradually filling up. Does it feel a little more like what it was pre-pandemic?
Gradually.
Yeah. And for
It's in the process.
in particular, as a resident, as an RA, what has your role has it undergone some change? Do you have some additional responsibilities?
Definitely. So we RAs are working in a virtual mode. So I have been assigned to be the RA for a first year batch, students who haven't even been on campus. And my job is to help them navigate campus life in an online context. So which wouldn't have been the case a year or two ago. So that's definitely the biggest change. All of an RA's duties have been shifted online. But
Yes.
RAs are also working on campus. So it's been interesting to navigate that.
Of course. And while we're still with you, Sahana, can you tell us something about the hostels, please? There is, in fact, we have a couple of questions in the Q&A box that do ask us about how are the hostels. So if you can just give us a general structure and the functioning of a hostel block.
So there are 4 separate residence halls right now, and it's fully furnished. So your beds, tables, everything is here. You don't have to bring everything with you. There are also common spaces below each hostel. And are there any specific questions about the hostels? I can address those maybe.
Not really. I think the student probably, rather the prospective student wanted just to look into, how many students to a room, how many students to a floor, and like that. So perhaps we could recommend a virtual tour for them till such time we start an actual campus tour. Yes?
Yes.
Right. Thank you, Sahana. Coming back to this, the virtual campus tour, Aditi, there is something that you have been involved with called the Minecraft team. So can you talk about that? I understand this team has been involved with designing building an Ashoka virtual campus right at the beginning of the pandemic. So we all know why, but could you share how this endeavor was conceptualized and how it took shape?
Sure. So back in June 2020, actually May 2020, when we came back home, everybody was missing Ashoka a lot, especially we, the first years, now third years, but because we had been on campus only for 5 months. So we really wanted Ashoka somewhere or the other. So a senior of mine came up with this idea that we could use the Minecraft platform to build the entire campus. And it's actually possible to visit that virtual campus and go around it. So the whole idea of doing it was using Google Maps. So we used pictures and Google Maps to do the scaling and imagine how it's going to be. And that was the toughest part because scaling is slightly different from how it's going to be in real life, right? So that's how it was. And we were a team of 11 people. And we used Discord to connect every night and worked from 12 to 5 a.m. And it went on for 2.5 months approx. And that's when we hosted the entire Ashoka community on the gaming platform on August 31. And I remember more than 500 students came in. So yes, that's how it was.
Great experience. Yes, that's a wonderful experience and a very useful one at that. So at a time, where we could not have visitors on campus, I'm sure this worked very, very well.
Yes. We also did virtual tours for students who wanted to join Ashoka eventually, just to get an idea.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Aditi. And while we're still with you, and since you did mention your engineering background, so there is a question specifically for you that asks you, how is Ashoka's BSc in computer science different from other engineering colleges in the country? I'm sure you get this question asked a lot.
Yes. So this
So
was a
if you can just-
question I also asked myself a lot. And my conclusion was that first is the research aspect, because I think Ashoka has that research aspect which other colleges don't. Similarly, professors. We have the best professors, and you can actually work with the professors one-on-one, which is a major plus. Apart from that, from what I have seen, engineering colleges don't have an updated curriculum. It's the same curriculum that's been going on. But with CS, that's not the case. So I think these are the two things that stand out.
Great, great. And what is the degree of academic rigor, since you are, a computer science student, and you have varied interests as well? In fact, this question is to all of you. What exactly is the degree of academic rigor? Do you really have to work very, very hard? And that's not a trick question. I really want to know how it is for you.
Okay, should I start?
Yes.
I think we need to work very, very hard. There is no doubt about that, because plagiarism is very strict at Ashoka. So whatever you're doing yourself. You're putting in a lot of effort, and whatever you're getting is actually like input is equals to output. So that is the best part about Ashoka, but at the same time, you need to put a lot of effort. I remember in my engineering college, I used to start an assignment like one day before, but here I start the day it comes, and it goes on till the day of submission. So yes, it's a lot of effort in my opinion.
Sorry, I do say that to the students a lot, because it's a choice that you have made for yourself. Working hard can't be so difficult. Am I right? So this takes me back to foundation courses. And Sahana, maybe you can begin with answering this. How have the foundation courses helped you to decide what you wish to do? And how did the foundation courses actually help you to transition from school life to university life? Can you just talk about the foundation courses a bit?
Thank you so much for asking me this question. So I have a lot to say. So as I studied humanities in school, my subjects were math, or history, economics, sociology, and art, fine art, with painting. So, and I came to Ashoka and I did a bunch of courses, and I realized that I was actually interested in science, and I was interested in the sciences, and I did a course, Principles of Science, with Professor Shashidhara, and I realized that I love biology, and I knew in school that I loved biology as well, but I just loved the way that it was being taught, particularly in Ashoka, with a focus on research and a focus on critical thinking, and not just biology as memorizing definitions and just memorization. So I decided to change completely from humanities to the sciences because of these foundational courses. The great thing about foundation courses in general for students is that you have to do one course in almost every discipline. So students, especially when you're right out of school, you've just finished 12th standard, you don't really know what you want to study, and they can really help you get a taste of things that you are interested in and things you do want to commit to studying for the foreseeable future. So we have foundation courses in the sciences, natural sciences, and the social sciences, in maths. It's very, very diverse. So, and everyone gets a flavor of everything, which is an integral part of liberal education as a whole. So I think one of the best aspects of studying at Ashoka is the foundational courses and the things you can learn from them.
Great. Anybody else would like to add to that? Because I am all for foundation courses. It really is, as Sahana very rightly said, it gives you a flavor of various disciplines, and you really are in a position to make an informed decision for yourselves. And that is why moving ahead, when you have to work hard, it doesn't feel too hard at all. So how have the foundation courses impacted your choices, Rohan?
I actually think that what the foundation courses do is they don't make the jump as steep from school to major courses, because if you look at, so they're tiny jumps. So you take a jump from school to foundation courses, and then you take that jump from foundation courses to major courses and minor courses when you do it. But I think more than that, and more than, say, the foundation courses, I think the introduction to critical thinking as part of the foundation course program really helped me, because what that course really does is it really makes you think critically, but more than that, it really helps you hone your writing skills. And as a first year, writing is very different from what you did in school. As Aditi said, plagiarism is a massive thing. Presentation of work and the way you frame it is very important. And so I think that not only the foundation courses, but also these this intro to critical thinking, and we also had another critical thinking course. I think those two actually really helped me, especially considering that as a psychology major, it's very writing intensive, and I hadn't ever written this much in my life. So it really helped me move from there. And I also really think that the FCs really helped me find parts of myself which I didn't know I was interested in. So, especially political science. I took the social and political formations foundation course. I think now it's called economics, politics, and society. And that really introduced me to the politics side of Ashoka and just how good that faculty is. And I think the computer programming course. And I think it really just opens you to different parts of Ashokan life. And even if you don't go and pursue these courses, pursue these fields in the future, I think things you learn from these courses can be incredibly helpful to your major. So, psych, when we have to do coding, we've learned already what the basic is from foundations of computer programming. So, I think it really helps you even in the field you're doing.
Great. Rohan, thanks. You've really brought out the interdiscipline aspect very, very well. And liberal education is liberal education because of the fact that you are allowed to, marry subjects, so marry disciplines, and you can study cross domain. So I think that is a very important point that you brought out, Rohan. And while I am still with you, there's another question on sports for you, Mr. Sports Minister, if I may just go ahead with this one. So this is about football and whether there is a women's football team. And if you can just tell us about the football teams in particular.
Yeah, so to answer the first question, there is a women's football team. There's a men's football team as well. Currently, for the men's team, there's an A team and the B team, and the women's team currently have only one team. But I think, especially during the pandemic, out of all the teams that we've had and all the teams that we have on campus and all the sports that are played, I think the one team, if you ask anyone from Ashoka and even within and even just outside Ashoka, the one team that everyone will say stood out is the women's football team. They started an Instagram page through the pandemic, and they really went and addressed key, crucial, fundamental issues with regards to sexism and many other areas of discrimination when it comes to sports. So they have a very big social media appearance, and even the work they do on campus is incredible. They did one video which really it got 91,000 views on Instagram, which is a form of put a finger down for sexism in sports and sexist comments that people have faced. And so that was really eye-opening, I think, for a lot of people to see. And I think they've also done many fundraisers through just this thing that they get, and that's also been incredible. And if I were to also put one team that continued working and continued focusing on team chemistry and team building when it was online, I'd say it was this team. They recruited through the undergraduate batch of 23, and even now when the batch of 24 is coming, they've all recruited. And even though while some people are on campus and some people are at home, what they've really done is they make sure to integrate both those who are on campus and at home in such a way that those who are at home don't feel left out and they feel part of the team, really.
Great. Thank you so much, Rohan. So I think we have an able sports minister here who's extremely proud of disbanding, stereotypes, gender stereotypes within sports. And I think that is very, very important. So thank you, Rohan. You've really brought out a lot of these very important aspects related to sports. So one more question on sports before we move ahead. What about badminton on campus? And there's a question on shooting as well. Is the shooting range open to first-year students?
So I'll answer the badminton question first because it's the slightly shorter one to answer. For the badminton court, there are 3 indoor badminton courts in what is called the multi-purpose hall. So it forms 3 badminton courts and the basketball court, but that's what the badminton team uses to practice. And yeah, there is a badminton team. So that is there. And the badminton court is excellent. And I personally played there and it's really good. And you also get the materials like the rackets and the shuttles you need from the department. So they give it even to beginners. The second question is a bit complicated with regards to, is the shooting range accessible to first years? Usually it is, and usually it is accessible to everyone, and they really want to encourage new people to try the sport, because even shooting is relatively unknown, especially when people come to Ashoka. But currently, unfortunately, unless you have past experience, they're not allowing it because of just how dangerous it is, because you're operating heavy machinery and all of that. So currently, they only allow you to use the range in the presence of the coach, who comes still a bit quite frequently, or members of the team, unless if you don't have any accreditation beforehand, because justifiably, if anything goes wrong, it goes really wrong.
Absolutely. And I think that can only be fair. So thank you so much, Rohan, for answering those questions very extensively. Coming back to the biology students here with us today, and Sahana and Larry, I'm going to put this to both of you. As I said before, we have a lot of interest in biology in the past couple of years, at least. So if you could just shed some light on the Trivedi School of Biosciences and how, how it's doing and how students are benefiting by this the Center of Sciences. So if you can just talk about this, please. Okay, Larry, you can start first.
Yeah, so I think sciences in Ashoka is very valuable. I think our labs are so well equipped with the things that you need to do your research and continue research. We also have an open lab policy. So that means me as a fourth year undergraduate student, I'm also working with other PhD students in my discipline. I also have the ability to learn from them, work with them. Yeah.
Faculty, of course, is something that we are very, very proud of. And what exactly is it that a science student looks at? You want state-of-the-art laboratories, you have it. You have high-end equipment, you've got it. They're open to you 24/7, yes. But more than anything, I think, and Sahana will agree with me, it is the exposure that your professors get to the classroom, because they are not just teachers, but they continue to be scientists in their own fields, and that is the kind of practical exposure they bring to your classroom. Sahana, how about you? What do you say about the Trivedi School of Biosciences? Anything?
Exactly what Larry said. It's very well equipped for students to come and study biology with a focus on research and the sciences. Like me, especially, I did not study biology in school, and I had only studied it till 10th grade, but they really, really helped me understand and helped me tide over from my humanities background. And in general, sorry?
Yeah, correct. Go ahead.
So sciences in general is taught with a focus on research and hands-on experience. So every single professor at Ashoka does their own research while taking classes for us. So it helps provide a more current and holistic understanding of sciences in the classroom. So I think that's very special.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this. And today, sorry, yes, Larry, you want to say something?
Just to add to like Sahana's point, if you do intern with professors and work with them, you also get an insight into their research and what they're doing in the current field, which I think is very exciting for you for any STEM major.
And this, I assume, is a voice of experience because you have interned with your professor in biology. Yes, and really helped you with your thesis, right?
Yes.
Great. So I take it, Larry, your fourth year at Ashoka, your optional fourth year, the ASP year, is a lot about research and your thesis writing. So that really, really adds value to your degree. And that is the one thing we tell undergraduate students, this is an opportunity for them to further their, study. And this is a great opportunity. So, of course, we have tried to answer most of the questions we've got in the Q&A box. But the one thing I want, before we wrap up, the one thing I want all of you to do is to give a parting bit of advice to the applicants who are writing their applications now, how to approach their applications, how to prepare for the interview, and the essays, if there are any tips that you'd like to just share with them. So Larry, since we're still with you, we go with you first.
I think the most important piece of advice is don't be afraid, because fear, especially with so much information that you're giving and you're filling in. It is possible to be afraid of the process. Don't, because it can also be so enjoyable. Don't forget the things that you've done in your life, because a lot of the things that you think don't matter really do, and that's going to come out during your application process as well. So yes.
Great. Thank you so much, Larry. That means a lot coming from an ASP student. Thank you so much, Larry. Over to you, Aditi. Some parting advice to the applicants this year?
I would say don't try to be anyone else. Whatever you are, just put it right there, because even if you try to be someone else in the interview, they're going to get to know. Because I remember after my interview, I was like, they have me figured it out, like have me figured out. So that's going to happen with you as well. So just be you and put your best forward, best foot
I
forward.
think, yes, absolutely. You couldn't have said that better. Just be yourself. Rohan, do you agree with us?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say be unapologetically yourself, because at the end of the day, they're looking at you as a person more than, say, your grades and everything else. Because they're looking at the people that can contribute to the Ashoka ecosystem the most. So just be yourself. And I know it's very easy to stress out, especially with with big college admissions, but try to be as relaxed as possible, because as long as you're yourself, I think you're pretty set for anything they throw at you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Rohan. That was wonderful. Sahana, and we'll wrap up with you. What is the one thing that you'd like to share with the students who are applying this year?
I agree with everything my fellow students said. But one thing I think that my senior told me was to start early and try to show all aspects of your personality in your application. This is what my senior from my school who went to Ashoka as well told me. So Ashoka gives you enough space in your application to show various parts of you. So I think you really should. Like for me, I showed my art portfolio as well, even though I was applying for something else. So make sure you start early, work hard on your application, but also be yourself and don't worry too much about it.
Great. Thank you so much, Sahana. I couldn't agree more. You need to spend time with your application, engage with your application, and don't make it an overnight project, but showcase yourselves to the best of your ability. And I know we've overshot our time, so thank you so much, Sahana, Rohan, Aditi, Larry. I have really, really enjoyed this evening, and I do hope the listeners today have enjoyed it as well. So thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that this webinar was helpful in knowing more about student life at Ashoka University. We'd really appreciate if you could please take a minute to share your valuable feedback with us. The link to the feedback form is provided in the chat box. Please note that the recording of this session will be available on Ashoka's YouTube channel in case you'd like to share it with your friends. Our next webinar is on careers after Ashoka, which is scheduled for 26th November from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. In this webinar, Urbi Singh, Senior Director, Career Development Office, will cover a brief overview of the placement history at Ashoka, major-wise placement opportunities, career planning activities conducted by Ashoka, and some of the top recruiters at Ashoka. The registration link is provided in the chat box. Before we wrap up today, I'd like to remind our audience that round 2 admissions to Ashoka's undergraduate program are open. You don't have to wait for your 12th board marks to apply, and you can get a confirmed offer of admission and financial aid without your 12th board marks as early as March 2022, much before your final board exams. If you have any further queries regarding various other aspects of the university, feel free to write to us at ugapply@ashoka.edu.in or call on the number shown on your screens. Once again, I thank our speakers for taking out time to participate in this discussion. Thank you so much. This brings us to the end of the session. Until next time, please take care and stay safe.